Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has emerged the new chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The decision was announced at the organization's 63rd ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community in Guinea-Bissau yesterday. Now, as the chairman, Tinubu will play a crucial role in leading the ECOWAS member states towards economic development and collaborate closely with member states, regional institutions, and international partners to implement initiatives aimed at promoting economic growth, regional trade integration, and social development.
Tinubu is the latest entrant into the exclusive club of heads of state in West Africa and has pledged to bear the responsibility of the office and run an inclusive administration of the regional organization, and warned that the threat to peace in the sub-region had reached an alarming proportion with terrorism and an emerging pattern of military takeover that now demands urgent and concerted actions.
We will not allow coup after coup in West Africa sub-region. We will take this up seriously with African Union and to the European Union and Britain and America. Take it up. It's a challenge. Yes, democracy is very tough to manage, but it's the best form of government. And we also ascribe to it. We should make a pledge here that in furtherance of our region's economic recovery and growth, we will commit to democracy and promote democracy and rule of law. I am with you. In Nigeria, we are back. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Of course, over time, Nigeria has had, past presidents and military heads of state as chairman of ECOWAS, all the way back to Yakubu Gowon, when, Muhammadu Buhari was military head of state back then in the 80s. He was, Babangida was, Sani Abacha was, Goodluck Jonathan was, Yaradua was, of course, Buhari once again was ECOWAS chairman. So it has been, repeated, incidents where the Nigerian president is head of ECOWAS. So, of course, we wish the current ECOWAS chairman the best. The Nigerian president, once again, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, last week instructed his newly appointed security chiefs to work together to end the unyielding spate of insecurity in the country. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu told State House Correspondents after a closed-door meeting with the president and service chiefs at the Aso Rock Villa in the nation's capital, Abuja. He says that they were told that they must work as a team and there is work to be done. He says, in quote, Tinubu's directive is not dissimilar from the order he had given to the immediate past service chiefs on the 1st of June, where he declared that he would not condone them working at cross purposes. We're joined this morning by security expert Salahuddin Hashimu, who's, of course, joining us to share his thoughts on Nigeria's security challenges and the task ahead for the new security chiefs and the NSA. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, sir. We'd like that you unmute your device. It seems you are currently muted, so we can't hear you yet. But while we try to get that sorted, yeah, great to have you. Now we can hear you. Now, let's get into the conversation. While orders are being barked left and right and people are making statements, the NSA, of course, is making statements. The Inspector General of Police has barked orders at his men and whatnot. People are still being killed. In Plateau State, it's in the news this morning that 9 people were killed in Plateau State. Benue State, of course, has had a very, very severe crisis in the last couple of days also. And so I want to know if you think that the current service chiefs and the security formation across the country understands the urgency with which they should get to work, or should we just give them time?
Yeah, I think there is no need to give too much time. First of all, the service chief need to conduct a comprehensive assessment of what is currently happening now regarding security situation in the country. That assessment will offer them an inroad to understand the kind of stakeholders to consult. What are the kind of security apparatus they need to put in place? What are the security infrastructure that would be needed for them to be able to build the kind of inroad and engagement that is desired? Of course, they have been part of this entire team from time. So, I mean, giving them time isn't really the case because they do not have any excuse in trying to do this. And the only way they can actually hit the ground running and run very quickly is for them to coordinate better, and then of course do that through adequate intelligence sharing, joint training, getting involved in some level of intelligence capability engagement, and of course establishing clear lines of communication. These service chiefs over time have supported previous service chiefs in terms of how they prosecuted all of those warfare. But unfortunately, I think the key gap for me here remains fundamentally with the trust deficit that they have with communities. A number of communities still don't think that this whole arrangement is basically to be able to prosecute or advance human security. They see it basically as an attempt for regime security, as activities of merchants who have seen security just as a cash cow, an opportunity to continue to milk the economy. But of course, if you must do this and you want to do it with a deliberate attempt to resolve this problem, there are templates that you must adopt, there are templates that you must follow. And those templates means that first, you do an assessment of what is existing, 2, what are the root causes, 3, what are the human capability that you have, 4, what are the platforms that are existing, and 5th is to understand how to be able to engage whether kinetic or non-kinetic approach. The Office of the National Security Advisor used to have a soft approach that they have engaged in the past. Unfortunately, the just immediate past NSA disbanded that arm, which is of course giving room for every kinetic operation to engage. But the fact is that security is a carrot and stick approach. You need to also find the carrot component that will help you bring in strategic communication as a key element, bring in some sustainable livelihood component that will help people to de-radicalize, and of course help you to be able to engage at vertical and horizontal level. If you don't do this, you will not be able to contribute effectively to tackling security situation. And most importantly, is the concept of protection. Protection must be seen as a right-based perspective, not just as some level of morality that they want to fulfill. It's a legal issue because every arms of our legal framework actually looked at it from the point of right. But unfortunately, we have seen some related situation in an attempt to curb some situation in localities or theaters of operations. We have seen emerging situation also happening, conflict-related sexual violence, the issue of unborn children, the kind of violations that comes as a result of security involvement in various theaters have also emerged.
Mr. Ashimo, I'd like us to further expand on something that you've spoken about. First, you've mentioned how there's a trust deficit, which is right. You've also talked about the fact that people need to see security as a right, not as a form of morality. And there are many layers to look at this from. If you look at the month of June alone, reports have it that there have been 690 deaths from, this is right after President Tinubu has been sworn into power. 690 lives have been lost. We've seen numerous numbers, and what we've seen is that this has been handed down from government to government. Several reasons, from state actors to the terrorists and the likes. Now, if we go back to the conversation we had earlier today in the Southeast, and we see what's happening with, for example, the indigenous people of Biafra and the sit-at-home order. Peter Amba has come out to say that the sit-at-home order has come to an end and has urged people to come out. But people aren't coming out, right? So how does the government, how do these NSA security chiefs communicate this? How do they communicate this trust? The fact that this is a right, how best can they communicate it to Nigerians before we get to the point where people can be able to say, of a truth, it's a right and it is not a favor that they are doing to us?
Thank you. Security is not about armament. Security is about human capital development. And that is one thing that our security agents must realize, particularly those who are just coming into the system. They must understand that, first of all, they must win the heart and minds of community people to be able to help them in terms of offering them intelligence. The most effective way to tackle any form of insecurity is human intelligence. How do you get those human intelligence when you cannot even relate with those community people? And that is why it is always a standard practice anywhere in the globe that when you have a theater set up anywhere, first of all, you have to appoint a community liaison person who interfaces with the community to allow them understand that the essence for this theater is to be able to bring some level of stability and protection. Then people can then relate with them very properly. But in a situation where you come with some grandstanding platforms and you are wheeling everything into a community and making them look like, well, they are just subjective, you would not get the kind of desired support from the people. And of course, response rates from the side of the state is always very weak and very poor. The individuals know too well that if they yield and obey government, that if anything happens, response rate traditionally hasn't been very fantastic. So obviously they know that it is actually going to be a death wish or suicide for them to go in that way. So they will rather just make sure that they obey the instructions coming from those who are non-state actors giving those kind of information. And of course, you know too well, there is also fragmentation happening within all of those groups, whether in the southeast, whether in the northeast, whether in the northwest. You have fragmentation happening. That is an opportunity, for instance, for the service chiefs to find a way of engaging a particular soft group and find a way to be able to demobilize the rest by using some sort of negotiation skills. And of course, unfortunately, the issue of negotiation hasn't been one of the very fantastic tools that we have applied or deployed in resolving disputes or implementing policies around counter-terrorism or counter-insurgency operations. And we always have this feeling that we have to come with every form of arms and platforms. But if you negotiate from the point of strength, there are groups who are willing to yield to you, and then, of course, use that as an inroad and entry point. Then the people can then trust you and have that confidence. But unfortunately, that is not the case. We have had consistent situation where community engagement and trust building hasn't been very fantastic. But this is very crucial. And community engagement literally help to promote a number of initiatives that these guys would have to cooperate in fighting any form of crime and criminality. But if you see the people in terms of community policing, outreach program, promoting respect for the rule of law as secondary, then of course it.
Yeah, well, we might have lost a bit of the connection there, but of course, as we try to reconnect, the conversation is mostly on, improving on Nigeria's security situation, and of course, the task ahead for its new service chiefs, its new national security advisor, and every other person involved. Okay, I think we have our guest back. So you've spoken now mostly on strategy, and of course that is on the local, level, and of course, also with military strategy and the likes. But I want us to talk about infrastructure, and how I don't think that over time we've seen an honest improvement in security infrastructure. If we are simply trying to improve on Nigeria's security, yes, we will do community engagement. Yes, we will try to, generate, increase level of trust, with security agencies. But if they do not have the infrastructure, there is nothing that they can do. If you look at the situation in the southeast or in Benue State or in the northern part of the country, if you do not have policemen, because a lot of these things aren't even, things that require the military. If you do not have policemen who are capable and who have infrastructure, you can't do anything. And so would we be wasting our time as Nigerians expecting anything different if we do not see that the current administration invests more in security architecture?
The first thing we must deal with very strongly is the entire landscape of our security system. One is to handle it politically, because obviously there are a lot of political influence that is undermining the capability and the capacity of the entire security situation. And that is because when body language, whatever you want to call the body odor of the fellow who is actually leading in terms of being the commander of the commander-in-chief is not responsive or suggestive, then of course that also provides the immediate agenda for those who are service chiefs. Secondly, is how have they translated political directives into queries that help them to develop action plan, develop some set of immediate inroad. That for me is some of the things that we should be looking at. What is the answer providing in terms of immediate direction for the service chiefs? I remember one of the events we have actually talked about the kind of knowledge that those who actually lead the security system have and at their disposal determines how progressive that we become. Because if you don't definitely have those very deep understanding of the entire approaches and the theories that help you to be able to deal and detect and approach, you would definitely only be able to offer directions based on what is capable and what's available to you. So that for me is a major gap, and it is very fundamental. So what is the knowledge economy of our political leaders? Because they must be able to offer you direction strategically. They must be able to offer you indicators for success and what you should do and what you are not doing and the reason why you are not doing it well. Because of course, if you cannot do and establish those indicators, you are. So political leaders must have those very fluid cerebral understanding of how security system functions and operates. That is the only way service chiefs will respect you, and they will not be able to come and use some kind of technical jargons just to bamboozle you, and that in itself is fundamental. The second is the operational gap and the operational knowledge. The operations require specific up-to-date rules of engagement and concept of operations that allows you to be able to understand the right-based perspective and then understand that, look, whatever you must do, the people must be at the center of your operations. That for me is not working, because if you have an operational plan that is not yielding to modern policing or modern counter-terrorism infrastructure, then it's a major issue. Then the third one is the personnel, which you have mentioned. When you have personnel that came in through a faulty recruitment process, when you have personnel that don't have the capacity to understand specific directives, when you have personnel that have gaps with knowledge and handling of weapons and they don't even have, that for me is an issue. And of course, going back to operation, is issue of the availability of platforms also. And then of course, I've mentioned severally that at a time in this country, we were buying APCs that our personnel were exiting from the top rather than the conventional one where you have to exit from the rear. If you have an APC where you have to exit from the top, obviously you become a meat pie or barbecue for those who are attacking you, because you need to be combat ready in terms of exit. But some people found it convenient to be able to bring in those kind of platforms. Why? Because they are going to make some marginal differences from them. And then before you go to personnel, then you go to finance. Finance is actually where the issue really lies. And then, of course, procurement. Those are the 5 pillars that actually defines the kind of infrastructure that these service chiefs must pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah,
because
and like I said,
it is going to be a major issue.
Yeah, and like I said, I think Olive will still have a question to ask. Like I said, if we do not see that these things are different, then it's a waste of time. What we are really doing is changing the people who are running the same, platform and running the same ship that has failed over and over and over, for the last, decade and more. Olive.
We've run out of time, so maybe as quickly as possible. I just want you to touch on this. Since 2017, I want to believe we've seen different IG of police coming in and saying that they will take away VIPs, the police from VIPs. A recent promise has been made. Igbetokun has promised, that a number of these VIP police would be withdrawn. Till now, we don't know if that has actually been implemented. So I want you to share with us, the possibility of this being actually implemented this time and how much difference it will make.
Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. There has been a successive commercialization of that particular process. And I can tell you that until we're able to redesign those kind of arrangements, we will continue to have a lot of ungoverned spaces where we have little or no personnel to man them. The reason why spaces are ungoverned is because we have almost 1/3 of personnel who should be in the field engaging at different operations attached to various individuals. So that in itself needs to be reviewed, and of course it must be deliberate. And there must be a monitoring team, particularly responding from the IG's office, that would help them ensure that this is actually complied with. But if that is not done, I can guarantee you that this is going to continue that way, because a lot of people at tactical level have commercialized that process, and that is the reason why we have the kind of gap that we have today.
All right. Of course, the current administration has its work cut out for it. And, Nigerians would not like to be disappointed, including those who are still seeking justice for crimes that have been committed in the past. Thank you very much for stopping by. We enjoy speaking with you. Of course, we will bring you in again.
Thank you for having me.